Hey, thank you all so much for joining another episode of Celeste the Therapist Podcast. My name is Celeste. If you're new here, I just want to say thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you. What we're doing on this podcast is we are learning how to understand what's going on with us and ways we can work on shifting. I always find that we get stuck in some of the ways that we think because we don't have any other way of thinking. So I want you to use this podcast as a tool to help you on your journey. So I encourage like a notebook, look at it as a class, right? Grab your notebook, grab your pen, take notes, go back to the notes because every single week we're talking about something new. And if you want to learn more about me, you can go to celestetherapist.com or I have a wellness center, stwit.com. You can go there to find out more about me. Today, we're talking about joy as an act of resistance. It's something that's been really heavily on my spirit. I've been struggling with having a lot of feelings around the things that are happening, around the world. I'm working with people every day, so I'm constantly in community and talking to people about how they're struggling. And I realized like people feel like very like hopeless or helpless in some situations. And so my goal today is to help you if that's you, if you feel like, I've been struggling, feeling hopeless, I've been feeling helpless, I've been struggling with a lot of rage, a lot of emotions. I want you to learn a new way of like operating so that you don't allow it to take over because our mind goes at the pace that we take it, right? And so if we're only focusing on all the things that we don't have control over, we are going to find ourselves struggling and being in a dark place. So my goal is to give you a new way of thinking about it. So we're talking about joy as an act of resistance. So first, I want to define joy, right? And also if you're listening, this podcast is on YouTube. So if you go to Celeste the Therapist, you can find this podcast, episode 504. So, joy is a profound and uplifting emotion characterized by feelings of happiness, contentment, and fulfillment. It often arises from positive experiences, connections with others. Joy can be both spontaneous and cultivated, allowing you to find light even in challenging circumstances. Joy serves as a source of energy and motivation, empowering you to embrace life fully and engage in your personal growth and transformation. That's one of the things that I find myself having often is joy. And there's a lot of chaos happening. I can see the chaos. I talk to people in the chaos. I sit with people in grieving moments. And those moments are very hard. But I promise you, what keeps me going is the joy that I'm finding myself being able to cultivate. And it's something that I had to learn how to do. If you told me 10, 20 years ago, like it was possible to have joy, like I promise you, I wouldn't have believed you. It's something kind of like if you're building a muscle, I had to work on cultivating it, right? That's the purpose of today's podcast is I want to help you learn how you can do that with your own life. So that's the definition of joy. Let's talk about resistance, right? That's something that's important. I want you to think about. So understanding resistance, right? So resistance refers to the act of opposing or standing against something, particularly oppressive structures, societal norms, or personal challenges. It embodies the struggle to maintain your identity, values, and beliefs in the face of adversity. Resistance is a proactive stance against the status quo where you assert your right to joy, well being, and self expression. It highlights the importance of fighting against apathy and exhaustion caused by external pressures, using joy as a powerful tool for change and empowerment. Resistance is something I feel like I've always had, right? I've never been somebody that went with the status quo. I never cared about how people viewed me, right? I thought about where I wanted to go, even if it wasn't where others were going. Years ago, when I started coming on social media, probably around like 2010, talking about mental health, it wasn't the popular thing. The way mental health is talked about now, in 2010, it wasn't talked about then. But because I got so much value out of working on myself, I felt a passion to want to help others by doing that. And it literally started with just posting quotes on social media. I find I feel like I've always been in a resistance space of not going with the norm, not doing the status quo. Like the norm in America didn't feel right, right? And I was always mindful of that. And in 2025, even more so, if I was like that back then, like 15, 20 years ago, imagine how much more I'm like that now, right? So That's kind of what resistance mean. Now, when you together joy and resistance, it creates a dynamic interplay where you can harness your joy to fuel your resistance against oppression, ultimately leading to personal and collective transformation. I need to say that because I need you to understand, like, this emotion chart that I'm putting up right here. This is from Beam. It's a really great organization. You can hold on to more than one emotion. You don't have to just have one. When I'm working with people, they may be struggling with their parent because of how they are, how they're not accepting, but they love their parent, and they struggle, right? And I say, you can love your parent and not like how they treat you. Like, you can hold on to two emotions. I think in America we look at things as black and white. We don't look at the gray. So knowing that, like, yes, there's rage, right? There's so many hard things that are happening that we don't have control over, but does that mean that I don't deserve joy? Right? I've heard people say, I wanted to have this birthday party, but I feel bad because of everything that's going on in the world. It's like, so do you stop creating joy because of everything that's happening in the world? Mind you, everything that's happening in the world, you don't have control over, right? It's not about ignoring what is happening, but it's also not about allowing what's happening to take over your life, right? That's the message that I want to share with you today, because I know a lot of times it's hard to do that. I was listening to a podcast, and it was, oh gosh, I can't think of the name of it. 10% happier, 10% happier. And it was a lady on there. She was like, I got a bad news from the oncologist, and she said, because Peter, I think his name is Peter, who hosts it. He said, well, like, what, he was talking about her active resistance and how she cultivates, like, being present, right? Because being present is where peace is found. And she said, I have this report, but I also, like, my kids are good, like this is happening and that's happening. She's like, there's so many other things happening. She was like, it's easy to just stick with that, like, diagnosis and what the oncologist said and focus on the hard thing, right? That's easy to do. She was like, but I have to be intentional on making sure I'm reminding myself all of the other great things that are happening, right? And so that's something that I want to remind you of what's going on. Even, there's so many hard things that are happening. And even though I don't really watch the news, I talk to people, and I'm sitting with people every day and grieving in different ways, for different reasons. And it's very hard. Sometimes, excuse me, sometimes I'll say to myself, like, I don't know how I'm able to do this, right? And those moments where it gets hard, and I'm very mindful and intentional on doing things that bring me joy, taking care of my mental health, taking care of my physical health, right? Allowing self-care in my life. And so there's a sense of peace that comes over me, right? So it's not that I'm walking around all joyous and peaceful all the time. There's moments of rage that happens, right? But I don't allow those moments to take over, right? Because I know how powerful the mind is, and I know my mind is looking for direction from me. So I'm very mindful of what's going on. I want to share something from Audre Lorde. She was a writer. She was an amazing woman, and she said, joy provides the energy for change, right? Because whether you realize it or not, energy transfers, right? You could be around somebody, and let's say they're always talking about, oh, this is wrong and that's wrong, and never nothing going right. You'll find yourself feeling drained. And you could be around somebody that has so much energy, they're peaceful, and they're talking about all these good things that they got going on, and you could leave there feeling motivated. That's energy. So, joy provides the energy for change. Lord discusses how embracing joy and the erotic can empower you to resist oppression and create meaningful change in your life and community. Her perspective highlights that joy is not merely just a fleeting emotion, but a powerful force that fuels resilience and activism. By cultivating joy, you can find the strength to challenge the status quo and engage in transformative actions that promote personal and collective liberation. And I think about people that are activists and on the ground, right? And that are working to create change. And I really want you to, like, continue to do that, but I also want to make sure you're cultivating joy. I also want to make sure you're cultivating care and wellness for yourself, because this work is not ending tomorrow, right? The things that are happening is not going to go away next week. And I don't want you to succumb to the pressures of everything that's going on because you didn't have the ability to work on inserting some joy and creating something different in your life. It's easy to get locked in this work, especially when you have a passion and you want to help people. Somebody like me, I don't like bullies. That's the one area of my life that like has always been constant. I don't like it when people take advantage of people. I struggle with that, my emotions around it. And so like I'm living in a time in 2025 where it's like I wake up, I can't believe that happened. I can't believe this man said that. Like it's you're so baffled by it, right? So for me, I keep reminding myself of my purpose and why I'm here and the things that I'm doing to help me like be okay. And so for people that are like activists and on the streets and doing this work, I really want you to make sure that you're allowing yourself to bring in joy, because if you don't, like you can break down your system just by all of that energy just being in you and not going anywhere. So, that's joy, that's resistance, right? Let's talk about the benefits of experience and joy, bringing joy into your life. Because one of the things on this podcast, if you're new, is like we're going to talk about the issues. We're also going to talk about solutions and why it happens so that you can work on creating change. So, one of the benefits is improved mental health, right? So, if you work on creating joy, it can help reduce your stress and anxiety, and it can also enhance your mood. It can allow you to have more of a positive mood and help combat some sadness and depression that you may be feeling. So, if you've been struggling with stress and anxiety and some sadness and depression, create allowing joy into your life can help offset that, right? I'm not saying it's going to change. I'm not saying you're never going to be sad or never going to feel anxious, but creating joy, allowing joy into your life can really help that. Another way you can be helped by allowing joy in your life is increased resilience. So you have the coping mechanism. Joy provides you with the emotional resources you need to cope with challenges and setbacks. When people look at my story and they look at everything that I've done, you would think wouldn't you would never know all of the things that I've gone through. You would never know all of the doors that was closed. You would never know all of the ways that I had to struggle to get to this place, especially as a Black woman. But the thing that's helped me is like me thinking about, okay, my future, like I continue to look at my future self, but also I allow joy into my life, right? I allow things that I love in my life. I'm taking care of myself. So increased resilience happens when you allow joy. Strengthen social connections. So joy often arises from social interactions and shared experiences. I always say like when you do, we're not meant to do life alone, and when you're in community, something powerful happens. Energy is transferred. Building and maintaining strong relationships can enhance resilience as supportive networks provide encouragement and help during the tough times. And speaking of the community, right? I created an online community called Shift Community where you can go. It's right. It's not on social media. That was my goal, not to create something that was on social media, but there's different spaces on there. And I'm going to be building the spaces as we continue to grow. But right now, there's a discussion board where we can discuss. And the two spaces that I created was gratitude, because that's important for me, especially in times like this, and also healing your inner child space, right? And so this space is a way for community to happen, because I'm always talking about community and how important it is. I know people live all around the world. Finances are not, your finances doesn't allow some spaces for you to be in, right? So God laid it on my heart to create this space so that people can come together and find community outside of social media where there's not a lot of distractions. So being in community is something that can really help with the way that you're feeling, because when you're by yourself, those negative thoughts can end up taking over. And besides increased resilience, another way is it can enhance creativity and problem solving. So when you're allowing joy in your life, your mind will be more open, right? The joy fosters a sense of openness and curiosity, allowing you to think creatively and explore new ideas. This is so true for me. Where I'm at now, like I admire people that be like, oh, I know what I want to do, right? They have this plan laid out. I didn't have a plan laid out. I didn't know. I just knew I wanted to help people. I didn't know what it would look like. I never could have imagined anything like what I'm doing to the level that I'm doing right now. But me allowing joy in my life, taking care of myself, allows my mind to be open to the possibilities, right? If my mind is in a dark space, what possibilities are there but darkness, right? So I want you to remember that, like, because some people may feel guilty, like, oh, well, how can I work on creating joy when all this is happening? Guess what? All this is happening whether I choose to create joy or not. It's going to happen. It's happening, right? So I really want you to work on shifting your perspective around it. Also, it can increase your motivation, right? Experiencing joy can boost motivation and engagement in various activities, personal and professional. And then also greater life satisfaction, right? If you work on creating joy in your life, your sense of purpose start to look different, right? Joy often comes from engaging in activities that align with your values and your passion. This alignment can lead to a deeper sense of purpose. And also, you'll have a positive outlook on your circumstances, right? So regular experiences of joy can help you develop a more optimistic perspective, make it easier to focus on the positive aspects of life and cultivate gratitude. So, these are some things that are important to think about as you are working on. So, these are some things that is so important for you to think about as you are working on, like, changing up your algorithm in your head. And the last thing is your physical health benefits, right? If you allow joy into your life, I promise you, you'll notice a difference in your physical wellness. So your immune system will be improved, right? Joy can have a positive effect on physical health, including boosting your immune system. And then longevity. So studies have shown that people who experience higher levels of joy and positive emotions tend to have longer lifespans, as joy is associated with the healthier lifestyle choices and reduced in chronic diseases. So there you have it. Those are some ways and reasons why creating joy can be beneficial and helpful to you. I just want you to, I don't want to just say, oh, create joy. I want you to know why it's important to create joy. And then you may be like, but Celeste, like, what are some practical ways to cultivate joy? Right? Because that's a real question. Like, Celeste, you're telling me to create joy. What does that realistically look like? As you can see on, if you're on YouTube, some practical ways, and all of these ways that I'm about to list are free, right? Because I don't want people to allow finances to stop them from creating the things that can help them in their journey, right? I'm all about starting where you are and using what you have, right? I created this podcast because of it, right? I created this podcast because I wanted to provide people with a resource that was free for them to be able to work on their journey. Like, I just hate that, like, our country in America, they allow for things that we need to be looked at as something that's attached to money, right? And I know we need money to survive, but I also know that it's not available for everyone. And I don't want people to feel hopeless because they don't have the financial means. That's why I say use this podcast as a way, take notes, right? Get your notebook. And then obviously my shift community, like, go into that community, start cultivating like relationships. Um, so the first thing is practicing gratitude, always important, right? Two, engage in activities that you love. It could be something from like learning how to knit. For me, it was gardening, right? It could be music, dancing in front of the TV. It could be reading, right? Think about the things that you love. It could be drawing, right? It could be writing. If you're a writer, start writing, right? It doesn't have to be attached to a publishing company to write. Even when like I said, I started coming on social media, posting quotes. I wanted to like work with people in some capacity, but I didn't know what that would look like. But I started posting quotes, and from posting quotes, I have a whole wellness center, right? There was a bunch of steps in between, but I started where I was and I used what I had. Like, I found joy in posting positive quotes for people. And sometimes people would write under, like, oh my gosh, this is so good, blah, blah, blah. Sometimes nobody wrote under it. It wasn't about like getting that validation from somebody writing under it. It was about like me feeling like I'm fulfilling out a part of like my purpose and what I know is going to help people. Connecting with others is important. Again, try to find community. If you can't find community, like, there's always online communities like my shifting community. Practicing mindfulness is another way to cultivate joy. Prioritizing your self-care, it includes like moving your body, right? Like I just got an alert. My Apple Watch was like, oh wow, you got a 10-day streak of working out. I've never done that in my life, but I've been struggling with a lot of rage around everything that's going on. And so I decided to enhance and increase the activities that I do that bring me joy. And I know I feel good after I'm done. Right. So I'm using that rage and working out, and I'm feeling good after. Right. So really prioritizing your self-care is important. Creating a joyful environment. This includes getting off of social media, getting off of the news, not talking about those things over and over again. Right. So when I think about cultivating an environment that is joyful, also includes taking some things out of your environment. It also includes maybe reading a book on wellness or care, or listening to something, right? It may seem foreign or new or different, but in order for you to get to where you need to be, your system is going to be a little bit uncomfortable. If you're somebody that's always on social media and you're not typically a reader, you're not typically listening to certain things, start making your system uncomfortable until it gets comfortable, because that's what it's going to take to create that safe environment for yourself. Setting intentional goals, right? If you're somebody that might tell yourself like, oh, Celeste, I don't know how to be consistent, I don't know how to create goals, start with something small. If you don't make up your bed, start with just making up your bed every morning. Make a commitment to make up your bed every morning, right? If you make up your bed, if it's something, let's say moving your body, you don't move your body, make a commitment to go for a walk, right? Like, you know what, I'm gonna go for a walk 2 days a week, right? It's not about going to the gym or getting clothes. If you're somebody that says you want to start reading, you know what? Set your alarm for a certain time, and then set your timer for 20 minutes and read for 20 minutes. I promise you, the more you start being intentional on the little things, you'll find yourself being able to gain confidence that you can do the bigger things. One of the goals I had during the pandemic is I wanted to drink more water, right? That may seem insignificant to someone, but I wanted to work on getting more hydrated because it wasn't something that I did all the time. And so what I did, I got a sticky note, I put it on my computer, the computer that I use every single day to meet with people. Every time I opened it up, I would see that yellow sticky note and it would say, don't forget to drink water. And before I started working, I would grab me a bottle of water. And as you can see, if you're watching me on my video, look at this. I got my water right here. I don't go anywhere without my water because I've built the practice. I don't need the sticky note anymore. So start with something small. If you want to work on being intentional about your goals, you may have aspirations to do something like bigger, but it's going to take you starting smaller, right? Start with the little things and then start to build your way up. Practicing kindness, right? Doing something nice for someone, donating your time. That's something that really actually brings joy. Embracing playfulness is something that could bring in joy. And then reflecting on joyful moments, right? I ask my kids 4 questions every night. One is, how are you feeling? What went well today? What did you do to prepare for your tomorrow? And then what are you grateful for? Like what are you grateful for, and what went well today allows them to embrace the moments. My goal in doing that with them is for them to learn. I want this to be like more natural than not, for them to get more into the moment. It's not something in America we talk about. We only talk about, oh, you don't have this, get this. You're sweeping with the broom, get a Swiffer. Your broom's not good enough. Oh, you have an iPhone 10? No, you need an iPhone 16. It's like it's never satisfied, right? And so we learn not to be satisfied with what we have. I've been to a lot of places that are not as rich as America is, right? That's a lot poorer. And the amount of joy that comes on people's faces is like mind blowing. I remember the first time I went somewhere and I was just like, wow, like it's not even like they have, but look at the joy that's in their spirit. Like you can feel it. Like it's contagious, the joy that happens, right? So I want you to think about like what you have. I want you to think about starting where you are. And last podcast I said finances, pay attention to your finances, pay attention to what you're spending money on, right? A lot of times we're spending money on things we don't need, right? I always say get a notebook. Yeah, I sell a guided journal, but if you don't have no money to get no journal, get you a notebook, get you a paper and pen, go to the dollar store and use that to start writing things down, right? Don't allow the way society is to make you think that you got to buy something and break your bank to be okay. Right? Yeah, those things would be nice. It'd be nice to have a coach. It would be nice to spend all this money on therapy, right? Because everybody doesn't have insurance. Everybody can't find a therapy. Like if I had the money to buy the therapist I wanted, or have the coach, or have this or that, that would be great. But guess what? I don't have it. And for I want you to refuse to allow what you don't have to stop you from being great and getting to where you need to be. Like that's the attitude I want you to have, right? So, this was important for me to talk about. It's something that's been on my spirit for a while. Um, this the things that I'm doing to be okay. I try to come to you in real time with things that are important in the world. And I want to encourage you to work on finding joy, creating joy in the midst of all the things that are happening. Also, if my wellness center is in Stoughton. I have events that are happening. I created this connections, monthly connections thing, and I had the first one for February. We crafted. It was so cool. We did bracelets. Some people did wine glasses. It was so cool. Next month we're doing connections. So I called the series connections because making connections as adults can be really hard. So the next one we're doing next month is movie and chill. So we are going to watch the classic Coming to America, have a little trivia before, come by yourself or bring a friend. It's going to be such a good time. You know, there's something powerful about community. And I think that's where we're heading is community. Like we need community. We cannot do this alone. So that's one of the social things that I'm having. The next event that I'm having. So I have these next events monthly. So we have Rest and Recharge that's happening in March. We just added Friday night restore. So the last Friday of every month, we're going to do restorative yoga here. And restorative yoga is a gentle meditative practice that soothes the nervous system and invites deep relaxation. Using supportive props like blankets and bolsters, you'll settle into postures for extended period, allowing your body to release tension effortlessly. This practice helps regulate stress, improve sleep, and cultivate profound sense of calm. This is a great class for beginners. If you are somebody that feels like you have things trapped in your body, these somatic classes that I'm providing are a great way to start your process. I've taken them here and it's been so good. Especially I took the rest and recharge class. We did breath work, chair yoga, meditation, all within an hour. And I started feeling really wound up. And I remember after it was over, I was just like, oh my gosh, my body feels so good. And then the next class we're having here, that's the third Tuesday of every month, Mindful Yin. So Mindful Yin offers yoga postures that are held in stillness for short periods of time, focusing on the connective tissue. Various breath techniques and concepts of mindfulness are woven into class narrative as poses are held. And we have the bolsters, we have the blankets, we have the water. You literally just have to come. So if you want to learn more about these events, all you got to do is go to stwyt.com/events and you'll find out more. If you want to follow me or my socials, you can follow all my socials by searching Celeste the Therapist. If you want to follow my Wellness Center socials, all you got to do is search stwyt.com. And that is the acronym for shifting the way you think. So one of the things that I want to make it clear, like you have the power to create change. You just have to have faith to believe in yourself. And when you believe in yourself, no one can take that away from you. So my challenge to you is to work on creating joy. I want you to ask yourself, like, what am I doing to create joy in my life? It could be like, you know what? When I get home from work, I'm just going to have me a cup of hot tea. I'm going to wake up in the morning, listen to some music, right? Don't make it complicated. Do not make it complicated. But I want you to work on creating joy. Until next time, beautiful people, I'll talk to you later.